There's a war going on at the border, no one is safe from. They build a prisons El Chapo couldn't escape from. This country was raised on immigration.
Now this whole damn nation enslaved by corporations. You know, plans was racist. I removed the hood. Now. Hey, I'm sorry. I was having too much fun just now. How y'all doing, man? I'll be the General Still. And welcome. You know, we're about to have a discussion about race and racism and just like the climate of the neighborhood and the world on a global scale. You know, we got some good people on deck, and hopefully you tuned in and you ready. Get your popcorn because it's going to be interesting. Bucktown live. Biggs is on deck. Yeah, I have someone telling me what to say, but I don't have a teleprompter. Salute my beloved Kenny Dogs, Kenny Montgomery. You know what I mean, Esquire. Salute Mally Man X. Now, this is great. Word up. You know what I mean? But we about to have this discourse, man, about life and a few other things based around this crazy project that I just put out called America's Nightmare, Part 3, City Under Siege. And yeah, we're gonna get into that. I don't know where to start.
Define race
from. What I need is this young lady to have a mic so she can be on the panel. I'm a rapper, y'all. You know what I mean?
Take it from here, man.
I'm a rapper, yo. Let me tell you something. About me. Something you don't know about me, Joe Rogan. Anyway, welcome to the Boot Camp Show, and I'm your host. How y'all brothers doing? Peace. Kenny Montgomery. I got Kenny Montgomery, Esquire. I got Mally X, the original Black X-Men on deck. And I guess we're gonna start by talking about race and what does that even mean? You know? Like I have some really interesting guests that's gonna be coming up later. But first and foremost, I put out an album called America's Nightmare, and you know, a lot of people was extremely frightened by that. I guess people think that I'm just, you know, General Still supposed to be the guy who was just supposed to rap and just rap about, you know, smoking weed and Timberlands and, you know, black on black crime and stuff like that. So when I start really showing the mirror of America, it got
you're a complex human. People don't like that you're a complex human being. Like
I don't think so. I think that they appreciate the guy on the poster. The guy on the poster is supposed to be like that. That's what I thought you was, and stay like that. Once you step off the poster and becoming real to individuals, it gets really funky. And you know, I think this is here. I'm graced. I'm blessed enough to now have this conversation so we can get to it. Who is that guy on the poster? And it's not about me. It's like I'm the last person that you should be even thinking about. But because I'm on a poster, I am the first person that's going to step up and speak upon the thing. You know, and I have it's a blessing to have you brothers on the panel with me.
It's an honor, son.
Kenny Dogs.
No, yeah, I think one way we could certainly start by kicking it off is getting a little bit into the definition of terms. And you know, and as I love to say, dictionaries don't define words, people do. So I think we can give certainly a little bit of the dictionary understanding, but obviously we got General Steele on deck. We can get into the people's understanding of the terms, because that's far more important and that shapes what gets chronicled in dictionaries. But I guess we can all kick off a little bit of our understanding of race, you know, in layman's terms, at least for me anyway. This becomes historically a way to categorize individuals, a way to oversimplify, in some sense, for practical purposes, a categorization of peoples. Over time,
Yeah.
it would get codified into ideas of states and nations, peoples in that way. And it's certainly morphed into what we have today when you're going to weave the legal system into it, the educational system, all of that good stuff. But Kenny can certainly pick up from there, and then, we could all start to speak from that understanding of what we mean when we say a race, before somebody can even be racist.
Nah. I mean, for me, it's a phenomenon that, for me, it's with me all the time. I particularly in the uniform we were put on this earth to be in. I don't see how we can't, throughout our journey in life, we have to have some sort of filtering process where it has to make some sense. And for me, it's probably, in a lot of regards, to me, it's man's limitation. When you think about how long it's been going on, and how now, we all, many of us know who W.E.B. Du Bois is, and he spoke upon how race basically has defined the 21st, it's defined the 21st century. And it is the thing that is literally destroying humanity, and it's a plague, and no one seems to know how to address it, or the bad effects of how it's applied in our system, all the systems in which we live. Like I think somebody just mentioned, it's in our economic system, it's in our academic system, it's in every system that you can think of.
The boys, is he part of the 10th, the talented 10th?
Yes, he is.
Right.
Yeah. Look, Du Bois, Crummell, Martin Delaney, Garvey, David Walker. It's a long, Ida B. Wells. It's a long history, but it's also a complicated history in us trying to fit in a global system that is predicated upon our exploitation and our death. And that's been the challenge for, at least in my opinion, of people descending from the African race, because we've been forced into a position that we've had to contend with a predatory system pushed by everybody, but mainly by Europeans.
Right.
And, how do we have meaningful lives in a system that our mere participation is our demise?
Right. But also, and we do have, of course, like when we standing on the shoulders of all of those elders, all of the sort of pre migration elders, we do move forward with the concept of race, where we begin to take it back and take ownership of it. And eventually we're going to move into this time and space of Black power and Black pride. We're going to move to the Kwame Trays. We're going to move to the Amiri. I'm from Newark, so we're going to move to the Amiri Barakas. But before Baraka, the noble Drew Ali. So the concept of race isn't always one where we are totally victim to whatever white America and the powers that be dictate. We begin to take agency and say, well, you know what? If this is what you mean by this, then yeah, I'm Black. And not only am I Black, I want some Black power. And I want Black power that's rooted in Black pride. And from that, we're going to get liberation all around the world that's going to be informed by the Black struggle under this concept of race. So, we inform multiple sides of it.
Can I say one thing, though?
Yes, please.
It really impacts me in a way that I haven't really been yet able to articulate. And I'm gonna be honest with you in that this isn't, think about it. That English isn't our natural language. So There's some things that I feel that I just don't have the words to express.
Right.
But when you study Du Bois and you study Garvey, you study Booker T, Frederick Douglass, all these guys, all of them, Crummell, they battled with what was the proper route. Where was the proper route or the direction? Is it upward suasion, meaning that you got to be smart, so white people, you can get into their system? Is it the talented 10th, as you said? And it seems like every century we have had that battle of trying to figure out how to assimilate in something that is impossible.
It's not built for us. It's like playing Monopoly like a weird a game of Monopoly. We all play Monopoly, but this game is mutated. Obviously, it's some things that's in there that it's just, how do you say, it's jacked up. You know what I'm saying? Like
That's the thing.
it's that
No,
the
in,
game is
in many
rigged.
respects,
The game
absolutely,
is clearly
absolutely.
rigged. You know, like we clearly
Absolutely.
are not going to get enough hotels and houses and stuff like that.
That's a
But
silly game. Yeah, like that's it. Like that's why I kind of get like you always hear people, oh, it's economics, it's economics. It's deeper than economics. It's ideology. It's coming up with pragmatic and practical solutions to create and control your own ecosystem. We failed to realize that we were put in a position. Think about how this world was constructed that we live in, the modern world. You move masses of people from continent to continent,
mm-hmm.
and you use them to create an economic system that would perpetuate the world. And then, as Mally said, now you get bifurcations of land and sovereignty and all these other things. That
Right.
is a really
And when you're done with these people, when they toil and seal, when they pick the cotton, when they groom the sugar or pick the tobacco, and you're like, okay, now we can sit in these plantations, these beautiful homes, these beautiful colonial homes. How? Right? There are people who exist in this time in our face who are going, yo, this is my land, but I am not going to toil. I'm not going to work that field. Right? What I do, I'm going to find someone who can make me rich. That's what America does. That's what colonialism.
I mean, that was the
But then look, So for those who often find themselves seeking some sort of, they might not phrase it, articulate it in this manner, but what they're seeking is some sort of black capitalism. They run to a problem because even if they don't like Marx's entire critique, or at least his our understanding of the system, you're going to have to start with some sort of primitive accumulation. Well, we were that a primitive accumulation. So even if you could get out of that loop, all you're going to end up creating or echoing is another form of capitalism where somebody else simply replaces you. So
100%,
that is poor Guatemalan, that Mexican, like, so
that's,
then
that's,
is
that's
that
Papa
the desire?
Doc.
And this is why so often when yeah, exactly. And so and that's and shoot, I don't know how long we're gonna be here, but we could get into the way that many of our systems take place in other parts of the world when we start trying to create nations that look too closely like our white counterparts.
Right.
Yes.
Well, let's start with race.
Start with race. Understanding of race.
Let's start with the very concept of race.
Civilization.
It's telling you that you have to beat all of these other people that are in the race.
Yes.
So whether it's I can't. Sometimes race peels or pours over into to religion, like in the case of Jewish brothers and sisters, right? Like we could say race is just black and white, but it's clearly not just black and white. We know better than that. So we are getting into a whole nother dynamic when we talk about the race and we talk about society and who's supposed to be in power. And this is like, especially when you're dealing with America, because America is the baby of Mother England. That's and it's the baby of slavery and servitude, right? This is the project of what these tyrants, these oligarchs. It's like, yo, this America is supposed to act how we want it to act. And then when you go, wow, you put black people in there. Black people are relentless and ruthless in the sense of going, wow, I love my family and I'm going to fight for that. I will work for that, but I'm going to fight for my family. So you have this, it's like how you say, conflict of interest.
And I think also what's America is a very interesting experiment.
Dig it.
A lot of people, you have to go back to its origins and you have to study how it was formed, and that it was always intended to be a white utopia, a white nationalistic experiment. Civilization goes west, land of the free, manifest destiny. All
Right.
those things sound great. They almost become cliche. And I was talking about this the other day about diversity. When things start becoming cliche, it means that people have clocked out of really trying to figure out the meaning of these things. And America has always backed up its racist, right-wing, violent rhetoric with action and with
Right.
systems. Listen, Shelby, they're still doing voter oppression in Black communities, even more ramped up now because of what happened recently in January 6th, because January 6th showed you that when white people cheat and they do everything, they can still lose the electorate because the white male had often dominated the electoral process. But now in the digital age where all the racism, but also all the non-racist things are being digested in this digital world, that man now is losing the ability to control, because his rule of law, which is a mechanism of power, which
that was slow down.
I'm sorry.
No apologies needed. What you said was magnanimous. Like you are losing the race. Like you're racing and you are losing that race. Like,
but they still got the resources.
No, the resources
got the lights
out the yazoo. You got all the money. You got money to go to the Mars, but you gonna got money to inoculate all the people.
Poverty,
right? You don't got.
But you know what? And you know what? He's got so much. He's got so much that on January 6th, to Kenny's point, not only is he up there fighting for so-called white power, what he doesn't realize is he already has white power. That white nationalistic experiment is already succeeded. Now what he wants is white supremacy. He wants utter white dominance. No one would question when you look around America that white power is the order
Mally
of the day. He wants total white supremacy.
Mally X, I gotta do the dance the young boy is doing. Woo. 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 Turn up.
You know. But this is the reality. And so when we look at the fight, our predecessors were fighting to prevent the world position of white power. And now we are fighting to prevent flat out white superiority and domination. And that is the fight. We are letting, unfortunately, the Johnny come latelys to the civilized world, and quote unquote, the white male. We are letting that individual who doesn't know where he's going lead the world. So you getting behind a group of people who have no clue where they headed, and you following them off a cliff. And this was King's question when he said, "Oh my, am I integrating my people into a burning house?" It was like, "Elder,
yes,
you are," and he knew it. The question was facetious. He knew he was at that time, and that's not a critique of Dr. King. That's simply an observation.
I understand.
And what we're seeing, and this is the danger of whiteness. Whiteness is an illness, it's a sickness, it's something that should be destroyed. The concept of race should be destroyed. That's not even a debate. If we're still debating that at this point in time, with all these people that we stand on this, on the work that they've done, we're fucking idiots. And America is the worst place because its information system and its intellectual system.
It's like a bad rap group.
Yeah, but here's what's dangerous. The fascism that exists in America is marketed and branded as a way of life.
Dig it.
So if the things that are going on here, when you perceive them outside of this domain, your fascism eye is working. When you're in the eye of this storm, you forget how they make fascism cool here. And whiteness has been a vehicle to become that. When we start talking about violence, America was founded on right-wing white violence.
Yeah.
Black people
against themselves first.
And listen, we have a unique position in this world and in this place, and the white supremacy that's practiced in America is extremely unique. But we weren't the only ones who were oppressed here. Italians and Irish were oppressed here.
Yeah.
They cashed their whiteness in, and they cashed their whiteness in on our backs. So when you hear white people say, "Oh man, you're a hard worker, you work hard," of course, and Mally said this yesterday, you can work hard, but don't for one instance think your working hard is your causation, but not your correlation to your privilege.
Dig it.
And your privilege is simply because of this false concept of race, which there is a pile of souls and dead bodies around this globe concerning Black people. And
Right.
we have been the most American, as Gil Scott and a lot of people said, because despite the anger, despite the facts that we can pull out, we've been the citizens who voted, who, you know, caused these white privileged people of all walks of life to go down there and smear shit on the wall and walk through the rotunda with a Confederate flag and go through the paperwork in the fucking Congress halls.
Because that's privilege.
Kill a law and order cop, which America is about, and then walk away with little to no accountability, which is connected to the people connected to the president who promoted it. They got little to no accountability. They got caught. They got caught with federal crimes, charged, and then pardoned. So we are in that type of space.
Allow me to add on, if I may. Every president has done that.
Everyone. Not to his degree, though. He's a special ilk.
George Washington, your favorite president, Lincoln, like you think because he wrote the Emancipation Proclamation, you think he was thinking of
hell no.
Black people?
Hell no.
He was thinking about the nation. He was thinking about the corporation. We know what we're dealing with. And this is why
Obama was.
And that's
he was just because you diversify white supremacy don't mean you cure that shit.
Right. So you could I can kind of understand my white brothers and sisters who go like, yo, Obama, whatever. Like you guys are just happy because it's a Black person there. Right? You got rocked to sleep. You was happy with Clinton. And Clinton was
and let's be specific. An African American or a Negro, but there's no way that he could be Black and God be Black. But I got you.
Yeah, that can't be happening at the same time.
That can't happen. But I know what you mean.
I'll tell you this. My lessons tell me the worst devil is a Black devil. The devil is no color. The devil used to be an angel in heaven. Now, whatever your theology is, it has to make sense that goes, yo, I'm a person who wants to change the game. Now, and me changing the game might make you guys go, he's a devil. He's evil. And in his evilness, he might see some purity. Racism comes from that. It comes from someone going like, yo, this is my flag. We represent this purity of whiteness, of family.
Civilization goes west.
Right? Now, at the same time, that we talking about evolution. Some people will say evolution doesn't exist because it comes from, it's a theory that scientists use or smart white guys. You know what I mean? But we watching this right in front of our face, and we're watching the basics of how it plays out. You know, there are people who are still studying humanity because they don't know. America, as a young child of humanity, of nations,
even empires.
Boom.
Oh yeah, only 240 something years old.
When you talk about empires, you talk about mofos that's coming out with the like, yo, I'm going to destroy your whole everything, son. Like I grew up in Brownsville, so like it's not race in Brownsville, but I can still understand hatred, and I can still I can stand prejudice and indifference and bias in Brownsville amongst Black and Latino people. So we don't call that racism.
Well, I think you have to look at it in a larger context. And it's something that Frantz Fanon, and we've talked about this in the past, about when you've been alienated socially, politically, economically, academically, and then you put in a very small place. Let's imagine the world is 100%, and you're put in the geographical space that would be equivalent to 1% of the world. But you can see outside of that very small community that you are not wanted in that 99%. And you also see how that 99% operates. Your nervous system is triggered to a certain degree in the way most people aren't. when you are then piled in a position where you have no control over your ecosystem with people who look exactly like you with very little resources, you're going to replicate and mimic the things that we've talked about. And that's been our problem. That's been a problem. Black people have been from the street and mimic whiteness. All these gangsters that everybody fall in love with, all these stupid things on Instagram with motherfuckers bigging up and shit that they weren't even born for or around, and just feeling a connection to it.
Yeah.
That shit is a bunch of gangsters.
But even when you mimic it, go
ahead, I'm sorry.
But even when you mimic it, it's synthetic. It's not the real thing. When you mimic racism, often what you're engaged in is prejudice. You're engaged in bias. We don't want to ever confuse any of these other modes of classification and separation. And it's a reason. People might not like it, but we understand what's meant when people say Black people can't be racist. These are larger systemic concepts that are much more applicable to larger entities. As an individual, you very rarely have the power to do anything with your private racism. Really what you have is a bias. Really what you have is something along those lines. My daughter, if my daughter says in her room, she sits in her room, I can't stand my parents, I hate my parents, they get on my nerves, very little is going to change in the overall dynamics of our household. But if me and my wife start saying, I hate her, I can't stand her, it's going to be some tough times around these parts, because we have the power. We have that kind of power dynamic, and these things need not be confused. But I'm not sure we on here, we got more to do than build on this. We're going to hear some music. So
allow me to add on, if I may. While we're talking about, prejudice and bias and racism, we're going to get back into that, but we need to go to a song from this project, Amerikka's Nightmare.
No, can I say something real quick? I'm sorry.
Please.
Yo, everybody, this I was around when the first Amerikka's Nightmare recorded in the second. So let's stop being fucking corny.
Let's come back to that.
This shit is like, this is not some, hey, still woke up and read some books. The fuck out of here. This
is COVID.
The COVID.
We doing.
Go do the homework.
All right, go to this one.
Let's go to this song.
Some of y'all just finding out what some of us know. Some of us live, already did the night. General still, that's a lot of blessings.
I'm what America made.
Some of us know. Some of y'all just finding out what some of us know. Some of us live, and already did the night. General still, that's a lot of blessings.
It's what America made. Yeah, the U.S. created the Unabomber. Tim McVeigh, Son of Sam, and Jeff Dahmer. Ivy League school, Yale, Harvard. The whole pale horse, the Klan lit the torch for the church bombing. Shit is psycho, base bombing. We in the pit with the snakes performing. Divine evil, swine eaters with hard bottoms and handguns. Black lives don't matter, they kill niggas random. All militia at the Capitol, flag Confederate, assault weapons tactical. He was a veteran before the massacre, man shooting at the Mandalay, train sniper, no amateur. All I do is put it right west of you. Homicide justified, organized by criminals. The chief of staff plotting with the generals. Sinister rituals, conditions critical. Let's go.
AKs to AKAs, deep state that America we spell with the triple KA. It's the arm legger, bring forth the light on Mecca. Strong beggar, no haram, strong like I'm on America. From AKs to AKAs, deep state that America we spell with the triple KA. It's the arm legger, bring forth the light on Mecca. Strong beggar, no haram, strong like I'm on
America made. The lone shooter was Oswald. Single shot from the top floor, blew his top off. Ollie North getting them blocks off. Reagan was boss, cowboys mingling with outlaws. Turbulence at the town hall. Charles Whitman at the clock tower, letting them rounds off. Koresh let the standoff. Agents let the cannon roar. Caption on camcorder. He was groomed to consume violence. Trench coat mafiosi to camp and shoot up the college. These America's babies, born violent, post-traumatic, semi-automatics, we stop piling. Police, racial profiling, white male walks in a black church and starts firing. Helter-skelter written in blood, Manson inspired it. We all just projects of this environment.
AKs to AKAs, deep state that America we spell with the triple K. It's the arm legger, light on Mecca. Strong nigga, no haram, strong like a bomb. That is from AK to AKA. Deep state, that America, we spell with the triple KA. It's the arm nigga, bring forth the light on Mecca. Strong nigga, no haram, strong like a strong America, baby.
See what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah,
Right back at it.
I think we're back.
Yeah, I think we are. I think.
Yeah. You tired? Yeah. Oh man.
Yo,
grab the. It's at the bottom of the stairs on the left.
First of all, no yawning on this podcast. No yawning.
All right, everybody's
It's
there.
contagious.
Get involved. I want to bring on some very distinguished individuals. I don't know if you guys can see them. We have. First of all, let's start with reintroducing Kenneth Montgomery, Esquire. That's my original PNC. On one hand, if you can count your friends, I got like 3. He one of those. Mally X, you know what I mean? The X-Man cometh. And some of my beautiful, distinguished brothers, Fubzilla, you know what I'm saying? I got the Fly Hooligan on the check-in all the way from UK. And I also have my brother DJ J Hart. DJ J Hart, I just celebrated my birthday, and salute to him and his beautiful wisdom. His wisdom, they from France, and she made me this awesome cake, you know. And I asked him, I'm like, yo, is she a professional baker? Like, nah, ain't not. She just likes it. She's a creator. She's a professional creator. And that cake was amazing. I shared that with my family. Salute. And good to have you brothers on deck. You know what I mean? Speak about this important topic and meet my other brothers, because these is day uno guys. You know, I'm looking at y'all this way and I'm going this way and I'm trying to. Biggs want to be in the cat. Come up, boy. Come on, let's go.
Spoiled ass Biggs.
You know what I'm saying? My butt. It's all good, homie. But anyway, what we just speaking about, we're talking about having like, when we talk about race and racism and classism and indifference and prejudice, like we've all experienced this at some level in our lives on an organic level. But then when we look at it and say like, okay, dude, this has pretty much been a systematic plan. There are people who actually think that Black people don't belong in America. Period. Like, you laugh.
I'm not laughing at.
I know you laughing.
I'm laughing at some others. Like,
it's cool. It's cool.
No, I'm laughing at this, but I'm not for laughing purposes.
No, I understand. I get it. We bro.
It's like it's ignorant. Like at this point,
super ignorant.
It's like, yo, okay, we got you. Y'all been there for a while. We got that. Like, we got that. And that's the thing, though, I want to be careful about.
Fubs look like he want to say
racism doesn't continue in this place by mistake. It's purposive.
Right.
And it's purposive because it fits perfectly with the power structure in which it operates. And when people think, hey, it's the guy drinking Mountain Dew in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, who's perpetrating racism.
Right.
That's fucking retarded.
Right. So when you talk about the guys who stormed the Capitol, like they was influenced by ideology.
America.
Right? The ideology of America in itself is false. Because America is created off of thievery.
Yes.
And Americans know that.
Yes.
The people that's in the Senate and in the House of Reps, they know that. So when you have a guy goes, yo, how do we do this unless we
pimp game,
reconstruct America? Like, you can't reconstruct America because America is still in the process of being built.
Yes.
Let's be real. All of our presidents, 16, like 1/3 of our presidents was slave owners. You know, from the beginning, slavery was automatically like cool with guys. You know, it's like smoking reefer. You know,
This
now
whole country.
you can't smoke reefer.
America hasn't done the work that is required to do to make it live up to the rhetoric and propaganda that drives the country and drives the economic system. It doesn't want to do the work because to do the work, it means it would have to redistribute the wealth in its mind. It
Right.
doesn't even think that it has to be human. Think
Hold
about
on.
the coronavirus thing.
Time out, dogs. Time out. So anybody, when I say dogs, don't get it twisted, because
That's my
Kenneth
nickname.
Montgomery is called King Dogs. That's in the street. That's how we, because he go about this thing. Now, when you talk about redistributing that, what's crazy is that you have these powerful individuals who come from this knowledgeable place, and they're going, yo, we put it there because let's not get it confused. There was a time where black people, free, not slaves, were living and they was flourishing. Then it became a time where white people, certain white folks, was like, you know what? Burn that town. You know, like Black Wall Street, and just to name one, and I'm sure there's a few that you guys could probably add on to, but there's a systematic in something that has been kind of like, oh man, I hate to say it, but the only thing I could come up with was like this Manchurian candidate type of vibe was like, you need to get this out of here. So what happens when we deal with segregation, desegregation, and we start, but again, before we get into that, let me bring in Fubs. Let me bring in the Fly Hooligan, DJ J Hard. I don't want to just keep talking about, because we're going to be here for like a lot of time. But anyway, gentlemen, thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
I really want to start with my beloved Aki. What I would greet you, wassalamu alaikum. The Fly Hooligan from
Alaikum
UK.
salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Allahu Akbar.
How you doing, King?
Some Allahu Akbar probably sounds scary to a lot of y'all right now. But when we say that, we mean God is great.
I mean,
when we say wassalamu alaikum, we say peace be upon you. How can you be an individual about war when the first thing you say is peace be upon you?
That's right.
Right?
I mean, Jesus even said in Aramaic, Shalom Alaikum.
Seeing.
Isa alayhi salam. He said Shalom Alaikum.
Shalom.
So I'm saying.
So thank you
for
being on deck. You know what I mean? I know you in the UK right now. A lot of us don't know what's going on out there. We want to touch bases with you and just like give us a little bit of background story about yourself, and as well as what's going on in where you at in your hometown.
Man, the Fly Hooligan. I'm an MC from London, northwest London, which is Harlesden. was a very rough neighborhood. Didn't have
Mm-hmm.
much racism in the beginning because the Irish settled in Harlesden. They were moved to Harlesden from Ladbroke Grove, which is 10-20 minutes up the road from where I'm at. And Ladbroke Grove was a very popular area, still is. Bob Marley has a family out there and everything as well. But the Irish came over here back when it was no blacks, dogs, and Irish. And so yeah, this is where I grew up, and it's a peaceful area now. But we once had a time where it was rough, like really, really rough, and the Metropolitan Police had
The Babylon boobs.
boy them, as we call them over here, boy them, feds, fideds,
See.
pigs, But they had this mission. They put out a team called Trident, and Trident was like, I don't know how to explain it. It's basically they just went out. They just went all out on the black community. They arrested any and anyone.
Wait, time out. So this is Trident. This is like a special
ops team. That's right. It's a special ops team.
So it's like the Tauntaun in Haiti.
Right. So
something like that.
It was a crazy time, and I'm talking like what early 2000, going up until like 2009, 2010, which was when I first came to. No, actually, I first came to America. I went to America in 2001, but in 2010, I was out there again because I kind of wanted to leave England and I wanted to live in America, Flatbush in particular. So yeah, I was out there for a while, and I've been spitting for a long time as well. As you know already, still.
Yes, sir.
We met through the late great, amazing Sean Price.
Yes, sir.
He introduced us, and we've been mad cool ever since.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely, you're the big brother. So yeah, I'm an MC from London. I've been doing this for a hot minute. I also run an underground hip hop label called Gourmet Deluxe. We work with the likes of Big Ghost Limited, Vic Spencer. Yeah, man.
Young God, Vic.
Yeah. Big salute to Vic Spencer. So we work with quite a few people, man.
So let's go to Frubzilla, one of my beloved brothers.
Peace. Thank you for having me and this unbelievable gathering of humans and minds.
Dig it.
I'm just right now I'm 10 feet back a white person. and that's the real. People say I've heard from all like that's what we're talking about, right? Everything is face value here.
Nah, it's not face value.
Well,
it's like
go
ahead.
Depends, right? We're talking about a lot of stuff, and you said earlier you were like, well, religion's a whole other thing, right? I don't mean to get deep right away, but been thinking about stuff, and I don't think it is. I think in America at least, and I'm sure it's global, but definitely in America, whatever you are from somebody walking up the block is what you are, and whatever in your mind you are is what they are.
Right.
Like I've had a big beard. I've gotten stopped by cops gunpoint. And then they saw that I wasn't Muslim. They put their guns away. And and I've been in the South having conversations with people, and they say things like, well, the Jews, and I'm like, okay, I'm Jewish for the record, just so everybody watching knows. You don't say anything because you're like, I'm in your house. I'm not gonna, have a deliverance moment right now. But like that's. And so what I've learned over the years, especially, is that we can hide it. We are just skin deep from afar in this country for everybody. It's terrible, but it's real. You
when
know,
you say we can hide it, you talking about
Jews,
people?
anybody that's not white and Anglo that colonized this country, more or less. If you're white, you can hide it. I can put a suit on, shave my beard, and be somebody else tomorrow.
Yeah, because you kind of look like Al Qaeda right now.
I can be whatever you want me to be. I've had people talk to me in a million languages, and I tell them I barely speak English. So it's like that's the problem with everything here. That's the crux of it all.
So racism almost sounds like angry kids at the sand park. You know, it's like, no, this is my bucket. That's my shovel.
I mean, it means nothing unless the institutions that control the ecosystem, you know, unless they buy in, it means nothing. So
unless the institutions buy in,
all money, it's everything.
You have individuals. You as a lawyer, how do you feel knowing that justice is in the 1800s? Way before you was around.
There's no such thing as justice is a concept. It's not. Justice means different things to different people depending on different situations.
But everything's run by margin here.
I don't get into. I think about that a lot, obviously, because it impacts on how I have to deal with people, judges, clients, adversaries, jurors. But I also understand that this concept of race is false, but it is only powerful because the institutions, and not just the institutions, we can't just stop there. The people who are the most oppressed also would rather be assimilating or integrating than revolutionary as to the thing that they know is detrimental to not only their lives, but the future of their children's lives. And what I mean by that is American democracy. First of all, there's no such thing. America's form of democracy is colonial democracy. Colonial democracy has informed everything in the American system. And unless you live here and unless you have a lens where you can actually reflect, it can drive you crazy. We live in a society where all kinds of nonsense, and we also live in an anti-intellectual society, but we don't have to be in a society that's only really been around for 200, a drop in the bucket.
No, Vandal, probably because of your beautiful wisdom. Vandal just said something. He's like, at some point, Vandal, salute to Vandal.
Peace to Surge.
He's a Russian living in America. So it's like, he's an immigrant? Like, it's his son? You know, he's like, at some point, like, who's making the rules of going, yo, you know what? You can't play in the sandbox with me, yo. You know, and this is what it's like, almost these angry, I hate to say this, but it's just angry white men who are going, yo, I'm making the rules and that's it. And you don't like it, get out of here.
Well, one interesting point about that get out of here, it echoes many of the points that was made moments ago. When we think about the race construct, the race dynamic in America, one, what is whiteness? Whiteness is nothing more than a consolidation of a collective of peoples all going back. People go as far back as Greco-Roman times. A whole host of people, mind you, that if they were to be projected into the past, they would reject these people outright. But today, you can consolidate all of these cherry people from past and say, now we're going to emerge onto the world stage to present for the challenges that ran so-called white people up out of Europe, Highlanders fighting lands. I mean, there's no consolidated concept of whiteness until you get here. Now, Italians are going to eventually get to be white. Irish are going to eventually get to be white. All these different people are going to eventually get to be white. But one group, of course, can't be white, because if everyone's building atop something, there must be some foundation, some bottom, if you will. And of course, by that, black people inadvertently become that bottom. And to that extent, you only end up then with one constitutional republic. In this time, at least as it relates to race, there were other gender issues that were present, but as it related to race, there was only one true constitutional republic in this hemisphere where race wasn't predicated on your humanity. And of course, that would be Haiti. We picked that up. And so when we look at that, as a material fact, we human beings have to ultimately determine what do we mean when we say we are going to use this concept of race as a social construct? Because at the moment, like the sister Addie Roy makes a point in one of her books about nations and flags, and somebody made a great point. I think brothers Fox Mulder, something like that in the forum, and he's making a point about America not being a nation. And of course, say Japan would only constitute itself as being the true nation in that sense, but America is an empire, and it's an economic empire. And most of us know you don't live in states; you live in and around companies, and increasingly that's becoming.
You putting words together,
you live
Belly
in
X.
and around company in this world.
Oh man, we
So
might have to go to
even a lot of the debates and issues that we have around race are also old, tired discourses, because more importantly, the planet is being destroyed largely not because of race, but largely because of corporations.
Corporations,
still playing the
100%.
catch-up game. We still playing the catch-up game, you know. So.
And I'll just say one thing: America as a sovereign nation is in a growing pain right now.
You
and
call America
is that it refuses to let anyone else participate in the idea of democracy. Meanwhile, it's a house of cards, as Mally pointed out, that at any slight discomfort, it can fall, because ultimately it can't hold itself accountable. And what we've seen of recent is a hypocrisy, live time, of its inability to hold itself accountable. And when you can't get past accountability, you cannot expect the republic, even though the republic has been dumb, deaf, and blind, anti-intellectual. Now you essentially have a citizenry of cowards, and you have a leadership in a country run by cowardice, but infused with corporate money, with no accountability.
Right, because their concept. Right, because they're only only accountability to participate in their so-called democracy is to choose.
Mally X. Wait. I'm sorry. This is getting way too intense. If you may, pardon me for cutting your wisdom, but I would like to get some intel or some input from the brother Jay Hart, who is from France, who was moved to America from France, and who is now out here. You know, how is that? And also, not to put your business in the world, but you married to a black lady, and you guys have a child together, and you live in America at this time when it's kind of interesting. You know, how's that working out?
So yeah, like you said, my wife is black, so my daughter in America is black, I guess. I don't know, but like you said, I'm come from.
She's definitely black.
I don't know, because
you have what they say once you have one. Go ahead.
Come from France, some racist motherfuckers in them of themselves. Like, no one has monopoly over racism. France has a very interesting history concerning blackness and revolution and a lot of other things.
Right. We talk about Haiti. But let's hear from DJ Hart. You know what I mean? You have
So I didn't grow up, with this concept of race like there is in America. So sometimes I'm confused, because of course there is racism in France,
racism in France?
Of course, like in every country, you're gonna go but it's more I would say it's more like class, where you're from in society. Classism, yeah, it's more like that too, I would say it's more where you're from, because you can be white, but if you come from like a poor neighborhood, the people, like certain people are gonna look, at you like it's just a garbage,
Right.
But so yeah, when I I live in US now, but so I got kind of a different view sometimes, as you guys got, because this concept of racism, I don't understand. Like you said at the beginning of the debate, you know, like there is no race. It's just like skin colors, you know. Because when I go to the Middle East, like they talk to me in Arabic. When I go in, I don't know, if I go like Spanish Harlem, they're gonna have people coming at me like talking to me in Spanish, you know.
Either Spanish or you one of the Akis, what you are
Yeah,
one of the
so that's just I just say that to say like.
But that's now though. Let's be realistic. Like in the 1800s, you have white people who are going, yo, I do not want anybody that wasn't born on this soil to be here. And if you wasn't born on this soil to be here, like, then get out of here. Now, what, like, you know, like you having a black wife, black your wisdom is black, and you guys have a children together. Do you ever experience that, you know, that indifference or that bias or that prejudice? You ever feel that anywhere?
So, let me just explain like the full picture, because we moved in America because my wife had better opportunity for a job as a black person in America than being in France. You know, so.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I do the paperwork for my daughter, and they put this stuff like race, like black, whatever it is, like I don't put nothing. I say other, because like my daughter is just a human being. She's not like black or white or.
But you gotta pick one of those boxes, though, right?
I put others, you know.
That's hard.
What if you have to decide to pick a box, and that box determines where your beautiful daughter goes to school or her education?
Word. I gotta pick African American.
No, I'm just saying that because I know what you're saying sounds beautiful and ideological, but the problem is that we have to integrate our individual feelings into a system. This is a system. This system operates with a lot of intent. So I'm just curious, and I'm not judging. I'm not here to judge anyone. I'm just still trying to make it for me. But I'm saying it goes to show you how complex it's like trauma. When you have a child who goes through trauma and you don't address that trauma, as that child becomes an adult, that trauma becomes complex. And now you can't get to the source of how and why that trauma even manifested itself, or how it manifested in that child's life. That's sort of what is white supremacy and racism in America. And you can have good people here who may be indifferent or whatever. You may have intellectually gifted people who may become or adopt an anti-intellectual position to maintain an ideology and a status quo. And the problem with America is that the status quo, black people, we are just the poster child on how to oppress. You learn how to oppress Mexicans, Muslims, and everybody else
on us.
Based on what was done to us. And I think, honestly, our conversation should be, in my opinion, less about what the pink elephant is in the room and more about practical things that can be done to deconstruct it, because it's an enemy. Like, it's an enemy. Like, it's taking millions of lives.
I would have finished that point and then echo, and I'd love to get back to Jay's commentary. But the point that I was going to make earlier was that in America, so many are fighting for this false form of democracy that gives them choice. But the form that choice take is Coke or Pepsi. It's a silly little binary dynamic of choosing what these businesses have already determined are my options. So that becomes the democratic fight to push around the world. But as it relates to this immediate portion of the discourse, when we think about the relationship of France to America, any of us who've had the luxury of visiting the continent knows we could see the French understanding and relationship to race all over the Francophone world. We could see that all over West Africa. And so in America, the dynamic, because of the relationship of France to America, is unique because it was looked at as its place to escape. So the Baldwins can escape. So individuals can escape. But what they were escaping into was a nation that wasn't devoid or so much more mature on a race issue. It simply didn't take a national policy like it did in America. And to a large degree in France, it became it was not only officially on the record nationally, it also was unfashionable to discuss. You run into some unique problems there because now you have ever-present dynamics, but it's unfashionable to talk about it. And so as the world's going, you end with like that little junk drawer that everybody got in the house. It keeps getting more and more and more loaded until somebody tries to open it, and when you do, everything comes exploding out. These are some of the issues that are now taking place. A whole new generation is seeking to define itself. So all over the world, people are going to say, well, how do we deal with the issue that some of us have been saying we don't have the problem because we don't discuss it? Some of us have been outright dealing with. This is where we find ourselves.
And Mally said earlier, white supremacy wants domination, not, democracy or fairness.
Right.
And you have to appreciate the fact that, like Bob Marley said, this belly's still full and they want more.
The belly full, but
so you in a system where somebody's belly is full, but they still want more.
So all right, let's
conventional is not gonna work.
Let's take it across the water, because when you're talking about Mother England, we have someone here who is from the United Kingdom. As a black man growing up there, like, what would you, what would your perspective or vantage point be of what these individuals just spoke upon? I mean, I'm from the hood. I'm from, like, I could always talk like a dude from Brownsville. Like, yo, I'm from Brownsville. I don't care about nothing, son. Right? And you're like, yo, nah, I'm from over here. So, like, yo, how we move, how we live, like, yo, like, racism might not be of no concept or no aspect to a person like me. I might be totally ignorant to that version, and then I'm informed. But speak to that point if you have.
Yeah, racism is very real out here. It's COVID. I was gonna say COVID because
it is COVID.
I only just recovered from it myself. But
pandemic.
Racism is a pandemic. It's been a pandemic, epidemic, whatever you want to call it, demic, for a long fucking time. And me, I'm very raw about it. I don't give a fuck about anyone's feelings when it comes to racism, because a lot of people don't know. My late father, amazing man, he was Lebanese, and my late mother, amazing woman, she was Ghanaian. And I was born in Nigeria, and we came over to England when I was a little child. And my first experience with racism was when my father looked like a cross between Ray Liotta and Robert De Niro. And when my late father would drop me to primary school, all the white kids, even the black kids, to be real with you, like, because obviously they were lost. They were trying to impress, the Jims, the Tracys, the Toms. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were trying to impress other people too. So you had a few coons. And they would go at me. Like, the parents would also go at my pops, like,
but they knew when they saw you, they was like, yo, he's different.
Yeah, like, what is like, who's this youth, like? And I had a raw, fresh off the boat type African accent as well, so it didn't help me, and and I over the years I became very militant. I've been in various fights to do with racism, like, you know, it's in me. I don't tolerate it in any way, shape, or form. And again, you know, in England, England, London in particular, but England, period. Like England, you could fit like 2 Englands in New York. That's how tiny this country is. So therefore, it's a lot easier to regulate. It's a lot easier to implement racism into the black communities because they're very few and spread far and wide. Like you may remember once upon a time still, like coming to England and the first place you'd want to go to is Brixton, and you'd see it would be like the Mecca for black people. Well, now it's not that. It's been gentrified, it's been washed up. You feel me? So all the places that used to belong to black people, rents went high. Then they got them out of the neighborhood. Then now, you know, you got white owners of these places, and basically they're now playing black music in these places. You know, and
not in Brixton. That doesn't sound ridiculous.
In Brixton, in Halsden, like Halsden is one of the homes for Lovers Rock. Labrador Grove is the home for Lovers Rock. Gregory Isaacs, Emmanuel Dennis Brown. Like I said, just up the road, you know, Bob Marley's family's still living out there. You feel me? So, you know, racism. I've been on marches, countless marches, for police brutalities, Brixton police brutality. Rest in peace to all the brothers that we've lost for police brutality. You know, Smiley Culture, who was once on Top of the Pops. Top of the Pops was like, you know, our BET. It was a program where, you know, you go like Soul Train, you know, live performances and stuff like that. So Smiley Culture, you know, he was, you know, well known in the black community and stuff like that. And
so this individual
oh man, like yo,
police brutality.
So police ran up in his crib. They called for paramedics and whatever. Brother was found with a knife in his chest. They said he committed suicide. My guy, he didn't commit no suicide, bro. You know what I'm saying? I don't know anyone that's gonna stab themselves in the chest. In the foot. You know, it's not even harakiri. You can't even say that's harakiri where a man is just slicing his stomach open. It's not even that. You feel me? So again, up the road we've got Grenfell Tower. That's a place. It was, in fact, that place burnt down the same week Prodigy, rest in peace, passed away. And that building had all types of cultures in there, all cultural backgrounds, that cultural diversity. We're talking Somalia, we're talking Morocco, we're talking Africa.
We're talking about worldwide.
Yo, huge global community in this one block of
immigration.
Flats. Right. Super cultural integration. And this building burnt down, and it was the fault. It was the fault of the council, because they had this thing on the building called cladding, which made the building more fire resistant, more fire repellent. And this building went down, bro. We all know who's exactly responsible for this shit going down. All these lives lost, all these lives affected. You know, people are still dealing with the trauma. Even myself, like I remember when I first drove past that building, I fucking cried like a baby, because that could have been my family.
You talking about Brixfield Towers?
No, Grenfell Tower.
Grenfell Tower. That's something that you mentioned in the song.
That's right. That's right. You know, and you know, all these things happen, and unfortunately, especially in England, I don't really know too tough about America, but I know in England, we got this thing called inferiority complex. You know, and we're made to feel like we cannot achieve anything, so therefore we must implement that inferiority within us onto others.
I wanna, pardon me for cutting your wisdom, Mally X. We talk about the inferiority complex. Like, can you speak to that? Because there are like there's projects across America and then there's projects across the world.
Right.
And
I'll speak briefly. I can speak
yes,
briefly on it, and I
please.
definitely want to pass it back to the brother DJ Hart because his wisdom was cut, but I'd like to hear some of his take on this. And what I'm about to communicate is a good segue for him to a large degree. The reason that, I've been fortunate, like many of us here, to travel all around the world. I've seen black and brown people, black and brown faces all over. And in all of these places, I see the same dynamic because many of the same global architects are constructing the same types of efficiencies everywhere you go around the world. Therefore, they end up looking the same because they work. And as a result of that, even when we think about the emergence of black people needing to be consolidated onto the world stage, much of it has much more to do with the history of, in particular, Anglo-French warfare, far more than it has to do with America, which is why when you study history from around the world, American history is put in that larger context because that is the larger context that's far more relevant to the emergence of race and how it would be fitted into a world system. So, but I love to let the brother speak a bit on some of the dynamics that he sees taking place, in particular in France, and his perspective coming to the States, and as it relates to his perception for his family of race, for his family in this country, because they are now having to deal with race in their own unique way as it relates to choosing America, like some of us here didn't. So please, brother, speak on.
J Hart, you please.
Yeah, so I'm gonna repeat myself a little bit, but yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm gonna repeat myself a little bit, but I think this concept of race, because I live in the US, I used to live in UK. I think it's very Anglo-Saxon. I don't know if you can say that in English, but it's very American or English, this concept of race. Of course, there is racism in France and everything, but when I grew up with everybody, white, black, Arabic, Muslim, or Jewish, whatever, In the difference, I would say the difference, like if you go in a project in France, like everybody is mixed, like white, like I said, white. And when I'm in New York, even UK, it's more like, it's more like, Afro-American with Afro-American, Latinos with Latinos, Jewish with Jewish, etc., etc. If you go, so that's why maybe, and if you go in France, you don't have to fill the paper with like race, like color. That's like different. So that's why maybe my vision is different, and I didn't want to offend anybody, Of course, there is racism in US, and having a daughter now in US, it's I ask myself some question, I got a daughter, but if I had a boy, I was talking with my wife, for example, like if I had a boy, I would be like scared a little bit because when you see around you or watch news, like that's scary. You can be just doing the hoodie and somebody can kill you, just like that.
So you thinking, part self, since you have a daughter, you're a little bit more relaxed in the United States. What you said, dogs?
You should be more afraid in the United States to study the history of America.
I don't know, man.
A lot of
black women. It's a lot of.
The crime against black women is more subtle, and it's not spoken about as much. The men, the boys, it's right in front of your face, right?
I'd love to add a quick point.
Please.
Yeah, I'd love to add a quick point to that from a historical perspective. When you look at the history of racism as it moved from so-called Great Britain to America, there's a beautiful sister, and I'll leave the note of it inside the chat because it's not coming to me now, but there's a history, a line that could be taken directly made from the oppression of white women first, the particular type of husbandry, the particular type of oppression, the particular type of sexual abuse that would then get transformed into the particular abuse that you would see throughout other people. And so in this way, racism in a certain sense begins with a certain form of oppression of white men on their property of white women. And then, ironically enough, our oppression, as I often would say, gets to be limited by the fingertip of the liberal white woman who says, now that's enough. It's ironic when you look at that. So even when we bring in the gender dynamics, it's a very intertwined dish about how people were treating themselves and then inadvertently how others would be treated. So even today, when we see a lot of issues we have inside of our families, much of it, back to the point that was made earlier about imitating others, all of this is interwoven. People are trying to have spousal dynamics, and the spousal dynamics don't work. Why? Because really that white man in your home, he's the boss. He's technically the husband in the house. And that woman can't maintain her relationship. The entire family structure breaks down. And it's bigger than the oversimplified gender relationships that often come up in popular discourse here. They're not getting to the matter of what's happening in this world when all of these people are trying to imitate a family system that was the very foundation of the same type of oppression that we see in other relationships all around the world.
And Mally, you said something that is very, I think requires a lot of thought and contemplation, is that America's brand of slavery was different than England's, different than France's. It was different in the sense that it was particularly recognized because of its brutality. And its brutality is what we are living to today when we live in a society where you can see black men on television getting arrested every day, getting choked out, dying on television, and you can be
murdered
because to enforce this system, you need a brutal law enforcement. Your military and your local police has to be brutal. And we're witnessing when that brutality is supported by the nation state, which is America. Ultimately, we have the death penalty here. In the so-called most civilized society, democracy, and modernity, we have the death penalty here. So you have to have a brutal law enforcement system, so brutal that even when they know they're wrong, it'll be denial, denial, denial. Even though you know they're wrong, a grand jury which can indict anything. You can get a grand jury to indict anything how you present it, because it's a one-sided show. Even you have a pro people's attorney general in Tish James' office where they can't even secure an indictment of insane brutality. And the reason is it's in the DNA of this society to support the brutality of that law enforcement, because what is always the domestic threat here? We are always the domestic threat here. Now we rap, basketball, we make people laugh, we entertain, and we mimic whiteness. We're not dangerous, because I want you to think about something. In this American history of the visual history of this country, it was a point when black people were coonish. We were, yes, boss, eyes down, bulging eyes. We weren't dangerous. The dangerous guys were the guys with the Tommy guns. The organized crime guys, the cowboys. Those were the dangerous guys.
Right.
What happened was when black people began to speak up and other groups, the Young Lords and Native American groups and the civil rights movement and era, that scared the shit out of people like Hoover and before him Anslinger, because they were controlling social and cultural norms. When that started happening, they criminalized democracy through criminalizing people who were standing up for themselves. Then the rap came, corporations came, and then money started being made. And then all of a sudden, the visual representation went from civil rights to, these guys are gangsters. So now we're gangsters.
Right.
We're to be feared.
Because we are now, how do you say, segregated by whatever you guys put forth.
Mm-hmm.
So we're adhering to what racism and the race class fight is setting up for us. So the Italians got to be with the Italians. The Polish got to be with the Polish. So yo, Fubs, when we come back, I want to talk to you about that. I want you to get in my ears about that. But real quick, I want to go to this song off America's Nightmare. I sin. We're gonna go to City Under Siege, featuring two of my beautiful brothers.
Los Angeles to Miami to Chicago. Protesters echoed the black man's dying words as he gasped for breath, while a white Minneapolis policeman knelt on his neck. Civil rights activists say a video of the incident triggered an outpouring of rage that has long simmered over persistent racial bias in the U.S. criminal justice system.
Yeah, New York on fire, the aid on hold while the death toll rises. Supplies getting low, but the stocks keep climbing. The wolves getting hungry, it's about to get violent. Ring the alarm, it's a disaster. The whole world's walking around, glove and masked up. Makes a lot, pray with your pastor. Then grab your weapon, prepare for action. Learn how to shoot, sharpen your fighting skills. Grow your own food and keep a righteous bill. The vipers will pick the time to strike and kill. You ain't real, exercise your right or just fight your will. What I leave, how I live, why I breathe. I believe there's a higher calling that I must achieve. So I strive to survive in the wilderness. Rely on the villages, my eye on the pillages.
London on fire, people wishing that Boris Johnson pussy could retire. Grenfell Tower, now we ain't forget. Look us in our eyes and tell us how you plan to represent. Instead you're killing our people still in front of social media, deporting relatives claiming they never had a visa. Making your excuses why we gotta look at statues of slave traders, mass murderers, rapers of virtue. Man, you take a running jump without a parachute. Try show a white Jesus, I'm calling you Caferon. Do it for the souls we already lost. They say it costs to be the boss, but I'm a leader sipping on some Irish moss.
LA on fire, the city under siege. Ronnie King spark the lighter. Was all up on the screen when the brothers start to riot. Ain't no justice in the means when the judges are compliant. SOS, we need to light a flare. We the last of the freedom fighters here. In the bunker with bully scullies and hoodie shitters, a movie soldiers equipped with toolies and riot gear. Keep your rifles there, man up, stand ground, hands up. Unarmed black man down. Practice self-defense, master your inner strength. The wicked ones always prey on the innocent. It's ignorant, we killing our own images. The hood like Vietnam, soldiers burning the villages. The warrior strong, army is militant. Word is my bond, hit on your guard, cause war's imminent.
Feu en pensée dont la colère s'étend. La souffrance a laissé place à l'action, il était temps. La cité est en état de crise, en état de siège. Les piégeurs sous l'emprise de leur propre piège. Babylone s'est bâtie sur le dos de ses habitants. Face aux démons, pas de trêve, pas de mi-temps. Percutant, avec science 45 comme les gueules de Brixton. L'amour fait qu'on respire encore comme Tony Braxton. Encore et encore on se fortifie. De cœur à cœur nos énergies s'amplifient. Haute fréquence au-delà des drames. Chant unifié, connexion des âmes. Aïe jeu et jeu, nous viennent pas de séparation. Méditation, action, dans la même direction. Combattant, battant comme un seul cœur. Battant, combattant comme un seul corps.
Come on, buddy. Yo, big up to Ali. That's my brother from France as well. The purpose for this discussion is to talk about racism. Race, not only racism, because when you say racism, it scares people. People are like, I'm not a racist. You don't even know. You know, you might have a prejudice or you might be biased about something that turns you against a whole set of people. I've had the privilege of traveling across the globe with my PNC Tech Smoky Live Salute and my boot camp clique. And I've learned a lot of things And not only traveling, but just in my home front. Like one of my best friends, Fubs, is on this panel with us. And you know, just talking about the value of family and the race and culture. I don't want to set the tone too much, but Fubs, I'm sure, please, if you have it, can you?
I mean, we've been speaking about so much, and it's so deep, and it's like, man, it's like I think it's everything's kind of been said here almost tonight, today, whatever day it is. But I keep coming back to the same thing personally. It all starts with what you learn from youth. What we're taught in all schools is off kilter. For me, it's like I have Jewish heritage. I mean, I'm a New Yorker. I'm a fifth generation New Yorker. I don't connect to Austria or Russia myself. But I know that I went to school, but I also went to Hebrew school. Like on Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings. I didn't understand why. Because it gave me a base of who I was outside of that, because they don't teach that. And so, you know, as I've met people across multiple cultures, same thing. You know, there's education taught amongst your own culture at home somehow. That's not taught in America, but we're this theoretical melting pot. And so you travel, like you said, and you go to places all over America, and there's just ignorance, like all kinds of fucking ignorance. And it's not because people are stupid or evil always. Right. It's because people don't fucking know, and they've never been told anything. They've never been showed anything else. They've just been showed this one dimension. What we're taught in any curriculum is off kilter. It's just one dimensional. It's created, right? Like we're talking about. So I think that for me, generationally, there's got to be something to be said. If we can really, I could be just being ideal right now, but if we could get to the base of that to start and really rewrite about this piece of rock that we call America, it's a mess what we talk about. And if we could actually start with some sort of actual history, that like why is it black and white now? Because census changed. Why did census change? Because they could redistribute the wealth correctly. You know what I mean? Like census used to say all kinds of different white people, not just white and black. Yeah. That was not for white people. That was so they can, you know, make black people smaller as a group. You know, it was just so we don't teach any of that. It's all over the internet. People learn, there's books everywhere, but that's not what's taught. So that's something that's been on my mind for a while about it, is that it starts with you have to know your own history. But like for me, it's like I don't know all that history. Like I've read a lot of different stuff, but
what you do know is that your uncle lived in Brownsville.
Yes, my great uncle Jerry, rest his soul, was from Brownsville. He died a couple years ago, 93. He was amazing. And he was born in Brownsville, and like, you know, and he
all these people know when he watched me, they said Brownsville, Sean Price. Like, nah, bruh.
It's like, and I said to him once, I said Putnam Avenue. He's like, those are my blocks. And at 93 years old, he was like, he's a my blocks. He said, he's like Murder Inc. You don't know about Murder Inc.
You don't know about Murder Inc.
Purple. He's like, he's telling me stories about watching Murder Inc. kill people on the street on, like, you know, back in the day in 19 whatever that year was, you know,
right,
whatever. And people were people to him. Didn't matter. You know, he traveled the world, and people were people, and treat everybody the same.
Dig it.
Keep your mother happy, things like that. Like, and so I think that's also, I think New York is a real special place. I mean, listen, we have our issues. We all have a lot of racism in New York, but we are much, I don't like the word integrated, but more together. We're more unified. And I don't think that, I don't think it's everywhere. Let's be real. I know we've all seen ignorance in its firsthand here all the time, but when you leave here, you see it. It's a lot clearer. And I think part of it is that we all share space the same. Well, not even right now.
In New York, you saying? I think we're pretty goddamn segregated in New York, actually.
We segregated everywhere.
I've noticed that.
No, I agree with that. I'm just saying that you don't, like, it's different because, like, the subway.
I think there's more of a respect though in New York where you're gonna say, you know what? Okay, I'm not gonna, as a white guy, the typical white guy, I'm not gonna find myself in fucking Brownsville. Or
right, but you'll never meet somebody from
Laos. You know what?
in Missouri.
That guy, I'm gonna stay in my lane. He's gonna stay in his lane. It may be more of a mutual respect, but I think even a liberal Democrat in New York is gonna fight like shit as a mom who claims she's liberal and she's not Karen. She's gonna fight to keep my kids or someone else's kids who is not from that community from her son's school district or daughter's school district, because she know an infiltration of black and brown in the Upper West Side or Upper East Side or Blum Hill or Park Slope is going to change the dynamics of their political and power structure.
Right, but now here's the question, and I agree with you 100%. I'm just more or less saying comparatively to the rest of the country.
Yeah. Oh well, shit. Listen. Okay. So here's where we dangerous at. If the bar is so fucking low,
yes, I agree.
On intelligence 100%. And common sense that segregated New York is the standard, we can't save America. So let's start having that discussion.
That was my next question. How? If we can't say, I agree.
Pardon me, call you beautiful guys' wisdom. But this is what makes the conversation interesting, because we are not trying to save America. Imagine us individuals going, I know exactly what to do. Right? And it's us, right? All these great minds in our most humble sense. Then you have men, pardon me for saying this, white men. The majority of these
nobody's traumatized. Zahavara or Lee. I'm sorry, son. People got to be careful with words. I'm reading some comment. Somebody's traumatized just because people have passion.
No, you should be traumatized.
And yeah, you should.
I want you to be scared. Of course. I want you to be.
But that's very conclusory. Like that's like you're not even listening to what we're saying.
We're traumatized. Nah,
you gotta talk through it though.
And if we are traumatized, allow us to use this as our expression.
This is words.
So this is not for you to diagnose anybody on this panel. If you're saying I'm traumatized, thank you for your enlightenment.
My humanity.
Now, what are you? I know I am, but what are you?
Because it's something Mally said the other day. If you're a black person in the world and you're indifferent or you're happy and you're not angry, then you got a problem. Maybe that's a problem. That's problematic. You should not be comfortable with injustice.
Allow me
on any level.
Allow me to add on to your discourse, beloved. Black people is like hip hop music. Hip hop music loves every other kind of music, but every other kind of music don't love us. And that is a fact. Hip hop, rap, we use country, folk, jazz,
blues,
bebop, name it, motherfucker. We use all of that shit. But only time a country nigga gonna fuck with us is when Lil Nas X do some shit. Other than that, you ain't fucking with. You ain't coming around the block. You ain't coming up the hood. You ain't walking down with these dope fiends, walk with these crackheads, smoke crack, with these fucking little babies be getting snatched up. You're not doing that. You're not coming around here. But black people, the most forgiving, and we shouldn't forgive shit that America did to us. Because America, not only did America wipe clean, smooth the Native Americans, and we call them Americans. That's disrespectful to even call them Americans, right? You came into another nigga hood and say, yo, let me take this shit. Now, you tell me this, right? All these motherfucking gang bangers, if you go into any gang banger hood right now and go, yo, this is my hood. Old block, I'm taking that over. You're going to get death and destruction. So America is going, I'm coming here knowing, because my mother told me that if you don't go there and get busy, then don't come back here to this country. Don't even claim this shit. Americans fought in the American Revolution, right? Because they wasn't going back to Mother England. They say, yo, you know what? Wow, it's sweet here. So we're going to take this shit over. We're going to rape and pillage this shit as much as we can. And not only did Americans, where does that term even come from? Who created Americans? What is that? What is that? Because the people who came here wasn't American.
Spanish.
You just made up some shit. You took over another person's crib, called it some shit, and you was in cohorts with all of the other people. And if these people say, yo, I just stole some people from Africa and I'm gonna bring them over here so you can get your cotton picked. My mother, my beautiful mother, God bless her, and she's still alive. Know that. She picked cotton. So I'm just showing you that because it's not that old. We have people who till the soil of America, and the white men who make the rules and regulations still won't acknowledge that. They will never give acknowledgement to the fact that they came from Mother England. Mother England, we talking about old stuff, and you still carrying on? Like it's rules and regulations. Like, dogs, you are an attorney, and you I'm sure you could testify, like the justices of, and when I say justice, I'm talking about lawyers. Like I'm talking about white men who have been in charge of like the supreme justice. When we go like this is the big, we can go to the supreme justice and we're gonna get some justice. From who? The slave owners? How when your first 16 presidents, every last one of these individuals, they said slavery was cool.
Well, we live in a system where the most important case that every black child should at least be aware of from the time that they can conceptualize words is the Dred Scott decision. And Taney's, the majority decision in Dred Scott by Taney, which
my 3-year-old niece,
everybody
ain't gonna read that yet.
She should though.
She should read the first one and she should read the second one.
Or it should be read
before she gets to the 14th. She should read the first one.
But it said Taney's decision said that a black person had no rights that a white person was bound to respect, essentially. Right. And America still operates on that.
Right.
That's still the
that means all of our presidents, all of our sitting senators, all of our representatives, even the black ones, sit there and knowing that to be rule of this country, and black people who are still having problems with just the simple things of voting, like the simple things of equality. We talk about separate but equal. How? Like we're sitting here.
Here's something general. Like here's an important point. You raised the idea of chattel enslavement, and I think it's important to help us as we transition and start to talk about some solutions. Although many of those individuals supported chattel enslavement, the only thing that happened in this country was that form of enslavement and oppression simply became less than profitable. That agrarian way of life, the chattel enslavement would move on to wage enslavement. Today, we exist in a time where wage enslavement moves on to gig economy enslavement.
And this is why slavery is cool, because it's not about slavery anymore. It's about the wages. It's about building
exactly.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something real quick as well.
They simply don't want to be poor.
Please build on it, God.
Check this out, yeah. So there's 200 countries.
I'm getting hyped. Woo! It's getting hot.
200 countries in the world. England, or Mother England, as you would say, General, they colonized 178 of those countries. Right now, we have currently been going through debates. Last year, I don't know if you're aware of this, but in Bristol, I like to call it Crystal City. They had a statue of a very well-known and wealthy slave owner in the middle of Bristol, and that statue got taken off the stand and thrown into the river. But and there's been an ongoing debate about Winston Churchill as well, who was openly racist. Openly racist. But we have the aristocrats making an argument saying he's done amazing things for England. But what he did for England had nothing to do with black people. It wasn't for the benefit of black people, or it wasn't for the benefit of anyone that wasn't Caucasian. Right. I would also like to say rest in peace Ricky Bishop, who was also murdered by the police, by Brixton police. Me personally, I feel African Americans in particular have got PTSD from this shit that they were taking through. And whether you were that, you know, at the end of the day, whether you was on a cotton field or not, it doesn't matter, because DNA carries a lot of information. You feel me? So your frustration doesn't always come from you. It comes from your lineage, your ancestors, those that went through that experience with you. You might get a vision, you're not sure where it's from. You might get a feeling, an emotion, you're not sure where it's from. That could come directly from your ancestors, from the people that went through that shit. You see, and we still go through it now. You know, we can't. Even in England, I can't walk down the road and I see a white female coming towards. She's crossing over, B. You know, a man, he's crossing over as well. You know, I learned how to deal with racism through my late father, who, again, like I said, he was Arab, but he looked like a white man, full on blue eyes, everything, you know. And my first lesson with my late father was when I came out. I was going somewhere with my father. I asked him for some money. I went into the store. When I came out, I was approached by an officer asking me questions. About 10 paces away from me, another officer was speaking to my father. I don't know what was said, but at the time I didn't know what was said, but my father slapped that officer. I learned two lessons. He
slapped him?
He slapped the officer. Yes. But I learned what white privilege was at that moment, because he was not arrested. You see what I'm saying? But I also learned if someone is going to be racist towards you at that age, slap him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I learned that from my father. You know, he loved everyone. He could speak 11 different African dialects. 11 different African dialects. Twi, Fanti, Ga, Santi. He could speak Yoruba, Hausa. This was someone who did not believe in color and races and all of that stuff there. He got disowned by his family when he married my mother. When you know, and when my jiddu, my grandfather, was being buried, his cousin turned to him and said, "Oh, when you kiss your wife, does that thing come off on your lips?" He was referring to her skin.
Wow.
My father sparked him. You know what I'm saying? My pop sparked him. So I was always brought up. I learned from an early age, like, when it comes to something like this, you've got to identify the issues within yourself, identify the issues amongst your people, discuss that shit in private, find a personal solution amongst your group in private, and just apply it. Because sometimes what I find is when I see people speaking about it publicly, you're just letting your enemy know what your next move is, or what your next potential move could be.
There is something in.
No, I love that, brother. I love that. I would love to speak to one of the points that few of those points, but I'll speak to one so we can make sure that everybody has equal speaking time. The point that you raise is so valid of being able to solve some of your problems, if not all of your problems, internally, so that everybody is not all up in your business. It's hard to have a relationship. We all know what it's like when you're young. You're trying to date somebody, but you get on the phone, especially if it was back in the day, and your mother on the other end of the daggone phone. You can't even get privacy. You need to be able to have your relationship, let it go through its changes in privacy. So to talk about some of the solutions, I'd love to speak very briefly about some of the work that we're doing at Combine that go directly to many of the issues that are brought up here. We talked about a lot of those statues being taken down of King Leopold, so-called King Leopold of the Congo. One of the programs we had a few years back, we were able to introduce our students, our young people, directly to the story of King Leopold and to the Congo, and to touch out of those artifacts in a nice closed environment. Shout Principal Nadia Lopez and all of the good people at the Combine, as well as her school. A lot of those programs and opportunities give us the space to teach them from a Pan-African perspective. So we are able to go from Nile Valley civilizations all the way through to the transatlantic dynamic, all the way through to today. And when we're talking about STEM, we're not talking simply about how to, we get some echo, how to build some websites or how to deal with mass communication. We're putting it in context of what's going on in the world today as it relates to your people on this planet. Shout out to people with the Brooklyn Fridge Program, BK Fridges, where we have community fridges. Our community currency program on the digital side. Our Brooklyn to Alaska program, Shout Beam Center. There's a lot of work going on in the Black and Brown community all across this country. We simply represent one part of it.
Current event. So shout out to DJ J Hart, not to put your business in the street, but you are from France. You're from, a European country, and you moved to the United States, and you have a black wife, and you have a child together. Like, do you guys ever feel that pressure of racism? You see, I mean, it's not the 70s, of course, obviously. Yeah. But if it's like, what are there any obstacles that you feel like you have to deal with as far as like being from separate races? Is he still there?
I think his mic's on.
Muted. My mic was muted. Yeah. I had, people looking at us, me being white, my wife being black. I had like people coming at me in France saying me, hey, you have to take care of my sister, whatever, and I saw also like, white people looking at me like, what's going on, in terms of,
I mean, even from family,
like you said, like
inside, right?
Family. So we're lucky on both sides, we didn't have any problems,
Give thanks.
And we are feeling very lucky because that's super rare,
Word.
That's super rare. When we moved to US, like, to be honest, like, personally, my wife, me, or my daughter, like, we didn't experience like anything. But I think like Fab said, we in New York, so that's like a
melting pot.
That's like, that's a melting pot. It's a bubble too,
Yeah.
Everybody, So the real experience I had with it is like racism. That's when I went to Dominican Republic with my wife. That was like probably the worst experience of my life, bro.
Wow.
We went there and security people telling my wife, look at this girl, how black she is. Now the security guy asking me why I didn't marry this girl. Like, go to the hotel. Nobody want to come at us, to like give us like drinks and everything. That was like crazy. Every day was like crazy like that. And the worst to me, it was like Latino with dark skin as my wife being racist against my wife. I was like, yo, this is like crazy.
Yeah.
This is crazy. How you can really like twist somebody's brain. Then I've read like the DR history and everything. So I learned about that. But that was crazy. Basically, I thought I was like Get Out. The movie Get Out. I was the same stuff, bro. Same stuff. Crazy.
You said Get Out.
Yeah, exactly the same. Like the guy at the hotel, they don't even look at us though. They don't even like come at us to take the order for food and everything. That was crazy.
So I wanna flip the script and go to like Kenny and Mally X.
Give me one sec still.
Please.
If I say that, it's just like to tell like how you can like twist somebody's brain. Like I think racism is just ignorance. Because how you can be dark skinned and being racist to another dark skinned people, like
that's right.
It's just because you speak Spanish, you're not like you don't come from the same roots,
right?
So all that to say, like I repeat, like ignorance is racism is like ignorance. To me, it's associated to the same word. And one of the solutions to go forward and have like better world with less racism is like we have to be more educated, everybody. So I think if everybody do a little bit of work, maybe it's gonna be it's gonna go in the good direction step by step. Maybe I'm naive, but I feel that's
you don't strike me as naive, and I've met your wife, but your daughter's beautiful, and
thank you, man.
I think that this is the point of a panel like this. Ignorance is the absence of knowing something. Really, it don't mean you stupid. It don't mean you're dumb and doofy. It could be that. After we get past all the rain, hail, storm, earthquakes, where we're able to have a conversation and get to know different cultures. Like, this is one thing that I appreciate as being an artist. Like, I get to go to people's homes, and then I'm going, all right, what if I learned here? Am I just some Brownsville guy who's just coming to rap to the beat? Absolutely not. And I think we're going to break soon because we're I'm sorry, guys.
We have 5 minutes.
But I've been instructed that we have to wrap it up. I feel like I'm on a Dave Chappelle show. I want to discuss like where you touched on about having the conversation. And I guess this is about the resolution, having some type of solutions. Like we're probably not going to change the nation, but the fact that we're having this panel is one version of an attempt at dispelling the ignorance. So if everybody could speak upon that as far as what do they think would help to get past this fake ass or whatever we think about as far as racism and race in America and globally, just touch on that briefly, and we can just spin the table. Can we start with Fubs?
Well,
did I catch you?
No, I'm good. Perspective's a motherfucker. Treat people with humanity. Straight up.
Right.
Like, you know, just break bread. You never know what you're going to taste and who you're going to speak to and what they're going to tell you.
Yeah.
And if it gets uncomfortable, lean into it. I always have. The more uncomfortable it gets, the more interesting the outcome is my opinion. And the more we do that and we get outside of our comfort zones, the more we'll fucking see that we're all the same human. We're not. We all know that we are and we're not. You know, we're getting to that here, but that we have a lot more similarities because of these old tropes and fears and epigenetics, a lot of shit that we can't change, but we can change ourselves one at a time by just saying, I don't know what I feel about this. Well, let me go close to that fire for a second. I hope it doesn't burn me, but I might learn some shit. And that's really it. Like to see the experience and understand the differences, to get to our similarities and try to move something better forward.
Iron Braids, you want to add on? On a global scope.
Boy, the one word that keeps...
We need a whole nother interview for that.
The one word that comes to mind immediately is ikra, read. You know what I'm saying? Read, learn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the world is yours, man. Go and explore it. I think the more people explore the world and they see different cultures and experiences, the more they learn that, you know, they are not alone.
Any dogs?
I think
I'll become your wisdom so short. I want to make sure everybody get their thing in there.
I'm going to say that the problems that exist in this time in society, through the environment, through infrastructures, that we have to face the reality that perhaps the society that we live in from a governmental standpoint is not equipped and doesn't have the moral compass or the desire to correct the things that you see as oppression. Therefore, you have to first get information, that data, and have a reflection process where that turns into wisdom. And when you're seeking wisdom, you're organizing and you're critically thinking and you're actually creating pragmatic solutions to deal with whatever the adversity that you have to deal with, and in hopes of aligning with other communities that are similar, and not stopping there simply in your alignment, but stopping and pushing the envelope towards a better society, a better humanity. That requires a lot of time, that requires a lot of accountability, that requires a lot of controlling of your narrative, but it begins with critical thinking and information in a society that's at the point of the digital age where the same negativities that have impacted society are now digitized. So you have to do a lot of work into finding information and nation building and community building for a better humanity, in my opinion.
X-Men.
Okay. I mean, for sure, I was muted. I actually gave a quick little rundown of some of the work that we're doing at the Combine, other groups are doing field work. I'd like to take a moment to echo then some of the sentiments expressed in a forum. Somebody named Pat threw out 2 points that I could speak briefly to. One, this notion that no one wants to be at the bottom. So I like to always say, too many people, they don't hate poverty, they simply don't want poor. That's problematic. That's not going to get us anywhere. Secondly, this notion of ignorance is bliss. If we know ignorance is bliss, we know what the opposite is. It's painful at times to be formed and to do hard work. But like Fubs was saying, you got to lean into that difficulty. To be specific around the race question in America, my opinion is, for every other group that's in this country, take pride in your diversity. Don't try to run to this place of, let's imagine a way when I see black. Hell, when I look in the mirror, I see I'm black. I want you to see I'm black. What I don't want, that means that I'm at the bottom of some sort of artificial social totem. And for white people, I encourage white people to do the wonderful, beautiful poet Amilcar Cabral recommended. Commit class suicide. If you're white, embrace your ethnic origins. Get rid of the white thing. It's not working anyway. Get rid of it.
Yep. And also understand that America, they can't address whiteness. They're incapable of addressing it. It's the republic, it's the citizenry that has to address it. If America was smart, it would have, this is what it would have done Reconstruction or emancipation, or even in the 60s, their response would have been any appearance of racism, discrimination on any level will not be tolerated. Yeah. But that wasn't the strategy. The courts, the society went the opposite way. So as a result, it's left it to its citizenry who's ill-equipped because the citizenry is too distracted dealing with capitalism, dealing with the stereotypes that America programs them with. So you're talking about the way this thing changes, it changes over time and it changes in small pockets, but also real revolutionary change happens off of a benign incident. There are people who understood this society, Malcolm, Ida B. Wells, all types of people. We could go on, Stokely, H. Rat, Elaine Brown. Unfortunately, we have to get paying attention to entertainment for entertainment's sake and really just start really doing the hard work, because if we don't leave a blueprint or a roadmap, or at least we don't add on to it, it makes it really difficult for the generation behind you to follow.
Yes, sir.
But that's why hip hop is incredible, because it opens that dialogue.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yo, on that note, we got to wrap. I think we could go further, but you gentlemen have gave an amazing contribution. I think it's a pool of information that people need to dig into. And this panel was, I mean, amazing. Thank you guys for everything. This is not just about America's nightmare, by no means. You know, this is our story. This is not his story. This is our story. So I would salute each and every one of you individuals. Big up to Cynical Smith, that's running the town.
Cynical.
Chung P, that's behind the gates. And, you know, hopefully, maybe we could do a part 2, because we definitely got more stuff to go over. But thank everybody for being on deck and all the intel that was distributed this evening. Asin, take us home.
Thank you, man.
Black people, you know, that's a statistic, that's a lie. See, all the videos, the statistics in America is lying on black people all the time.
Thank you.
You know what? We don't own airplanes, buses, trains, none of that stuff. You know what? The U.S. government plays a very big part, and it's called genocide in America, and that's what it's about.
Ancient scrolls written on a papyrus. What's the death toll when they give us the virus? Our alliance with these tyrants got us fighting ISIS. China missile crisis, now we dining with the vipers. Armed sniper on the roof, that's the black ops. Swine authorized to shoot, even black cops. The lessons tell you the worst devil's a black devil. Fire burns, see who earns when the ash settles. Alhamdulillah, like God working on glass pedals. If freedom come from a barrel and I'm a black pedal. We let the shells echo for all the children that die living in hell's ghetto. We the bastards of the party, Illuminati wanna take my mind, soul, and my body. Study my genealogy, eugenics personified. Inoculate the population, modern day genocide.
No, not on the streets, them where we laugh. Strike like the non-cut and make the heel drop. Watch the black sunrise and make the tree lock. Mahadim, can't try that. Enough, Jah bless my people, bless my life. In this modern day, genocide 444,000. Guns shall rise in this modern day, genocide.
Those stones like Moses did commandments. Truth told, lost souls along the transatlantic. Black folks been at a disadvantage. We need a different vantage. Only point that matters when the pistols branded. When the pistols landed, witness the village vanish. When you different, bigotry